There is an inner lever within your mind, subtle, unspoken, unnoticed by most. You weren't taught about it in school. It wasn't mentioned in your home, nor brought up in your job training. But it's there, waiting. And the moment you discover it, truly switch it on you, don't just become sharper, you become unshakable. This isn't about test scores or how quickly you solve equations. This is about an intelligence that changes how you carry yourself, how you interpret the world, how you move through situations with such precision and grounded clarity that others feel your presence before they understand it. That lever marks the boundary between drifting and direction, between reaction and intention. It's the transformation from a scattered existence to a centered presence, from being pulled by noise to moving with internal command. Your mind was never flawed. It was never slow. It was simply silenced, buried under distractions, conditioned to cope, not conquer. But the moment you stop letting the world dictate your attention, when you step back from the flood of noise and reclaim control over what you focus on, something remarkable occurs. You begin to see structure where others see chaos. You begin to move while others hesitate. You think with a kind of clarity that catches people off guard because it's rare and because it's powerful. This isn't a hack. It's a return to what was always there. Deep focus, calm alertness, a presence that does not waver. And once you touch that space, you don't go back. You remember your original power. You stop shrinking. You stop overexpecting. You stop seeking approval. You begin to move as someone who doesn't need to prove anything because your focus speaks for itself. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be broken. And it certainly cannot be bought. That's not motivation. That's mastery. You think you're tired, but you're not. You're overstimulated. That's the truth. You're bombarded by noise, and it's exhausting your mind. Not your body, not your spirit, your focus. You weren't built to process this much chatter, this many updates, this endless stream of inputs. Swipe, scroll, swipe again before you even rise from bed. Your nervous system is in overdrive before the day even begins. You feel foggy, anxious, unfocused. And it's not because you're broken, it's because you're overloaded. Your sharpness hasn't disappeared. It's just been buried under the constant stream of information, opinions, and surface-level stimulation you've mistaken for importance. But here's the truth. When you cut the clutter, when you remove the mental junk food, your mind reawakens. And what comes back is powerful, laser-sharp thinking, instinctive decision-making, and a kind of inner strength that most people haven't felt in years. When you stop chasing every click, every buzz, every headline, you stop leaking energy. You stop draining your power on things that don't matter. And then, the silence returns, and with it, clarity. That silence isn't empty. It's focused. It's potential. And when you touch it, even once, you'll realize how much you've been operating at half capacity without even knowing it. You'll feel the weight of all the distractions you once thought were normal, and you'll never want to go back. Because here's the secret: what remains after the noise is cleared away is you, the real you, the focused you, the unstoppable version of yourself that doesn't need permission, doesn't need reminders, and doesn't need approval. Just clear intention and the stillness to carry it through. Let's talk about one chemical: dopamine, the driver behind every craving, every impulse, every sudden loss of focus. It's not evil, but it's powerful. It motivates, it directs, it compels. And the truth is, most people are ruled by it. Every click, every short-term reward, every moment of mindless pleasure, it's tied to dopamine. That's why you reach for your phone. That's why you scroll, even when you're tired. That's why you chase little wins instead of deep growth. But here's the paradox. The same chemical that leads people into distraction can also be trained to fuel focus, discipline, and relentless action. The difference, intention. When you train your brain to connect dopamine not with the easy, but with the meaningful, not with the quick, but with the earned, everything changes. The struggle becomes the reward. The silence becomes the fuel. The challenge becomes the craving. That's when you shift. You stop chasing comfort and start pursuing growth. You stop needing stimulation and start craving structure. You wire your brain for long-term wins, not temporary relief. And now, discipline stops being hard. It becomes who you are. Very few people understand this, because very few people are willing to endure the discomfort of rewiring their mind. But for those who do, the rewards are extraordinary. Dopamine, when mastered, becomes your tool, not your trap. There's no middle ground. Either you command your focus or it commands you. Either you direct your energy or the world will. And once you understand that, you stop playing small. You stop reacting. You start choosing. And you never look back. Let's talk multitasking. The world praises at 5 things at once, constantly connected, constantly engaged. But here's the truth. Multitasking is the myth. Focus is the weapon. Your brain wasn't made to divide its attention. It was made to dive deep, to tunnel into one task, one thought, one mission, until it's complete. The elite don't race ahead. They go deep. They choose one direction and pursue it with total presence. Monotasking is not old-fashioned. It's dangerous. It's rare. It's threatening to a distracted world. Every time you split your attention, you dilute your impact. But when you commit, when you give every ounce of your focus to one objective, everything sharpens. You move faster, decide faster, execute cleaner, and most importantly, you finish. That's the real edge. Completion. In a world of half-finished efforts and scattered intentions, the person who completes what they start is the one who rises. So don't try to do more. Do less, with greater precision. One focus, one goal, one unbroken stream of attention, and watch the world move out of your way. Your mind is not meant to absorb everything. It's meant to produce, to solve, to lead. But if all you do is consume endless content, endless opinions, you drown out your own intelligence. Your inner voice gets lost in the static. But here's the hidden key. When you cut off the input, the output explodes. Go silent. Create space. And the mind wakes up. Strategy flows. Insight returns. You begin to think originally, act decisively, and speak with clarity. That only happens when you remove the noise. You must carve out time not to listen, but to generate. Not to follow, but to lead. That's why the most focused minds go dark for hours, even days. They're not avoiding the world. They're building. They're loading. The less you consume, the more you build. The less you absorb, the more you create. And once you feel the power of your own undiluted thoughts, you'll never go back to scrolling for answers. That's not silence. That's power. Your mind doesn't work in a constant straight line. It functions in cycles, waves of intensity, rhythm, and restoration. And one of the most powerful natural states you can access is the 90-minute deep focus window. This isn't a gimmick. It's not a productivity trend. It's biology. Every 90 to 120 minutes, your brain enters a peak state, a window of heightened cognition where your memory sharpens, your decision-making quickens, and your ability to solve complex problems ignites. In that window, you can accomplish more than most people do in an entire day if you protect it. But here's the challenge. Most never reach it. Why? Because they sabotage it before it begins. Endless notifications, pointless interruptions, task switching, constant stimulation. The moment the mind begins to settle, the world pulls it back into chaos. But those who build empires, who write legacies, who shape the world, they guard this focus window with intention, like a sacred ritual. No distractions, no divided attention, just full presence. And when you stack these windows day after day, consistently, you don't just become more productive. You become formidable. You begin to align your work with the mind's natural rhythm, not against it. and that changes everything. One 90-minute block can shift your entire day. Protect 2 or 3 consistently, and the world won't be able to keep up with your output. Not because you're working harder, but because you're working smarter, aligned with your biology, anchored in deep presence, and fueled by purpose. This is the edge no one talks about. Not because it's hidden, but because it demands something rare: discipline. And discipline, in a distracted world, is a form of genius. If you want to sharpen your mind, you can't treat your body like an afterthought. Your brain is not separate from your physical vessel. It's not floating in some spiritual cloud. It's flesh, blood, chemistry, and it needs to be fueled accordingly. Mental sharpness doesn't start with more information, it starts with physical. Alignment. Water brings clarity. Movement brings oxygen. Healthy fats fuel your neurons. Deep sleep solidifies your learning. Sunlight aligns your internal clock. You don't need another motivational video. You need hydration. You don't need more caffeine. You need deep rest. Most people poison their mental clarity daily with processed food, sugar spikes, sedentary living, and overstimulation. Then they wonder why they can't focus, why they can't think clearly, why they don't feel like themselves. But those who treat their body like a vehicle of precision, not indulgence, find that their mind follows. When every bite, every breath, every hour of rest becomes part of your mental training, you transform, you move sharper, you think faster, you react calmer, you become more dangerous not by shouting louder, but by operating cleaner. This is the hidden edge. While others numb themselves and call it comfort, you build a system tight, focused, and battle-ready. Because the mind of a civilian gets manipulated, but the mind of a warrior fueled right, trained right, anchored right, is not just focused, it's unstoppable. In a world obsessed with connection, likes, notifications, and the need to constantly be on, the one who steps back into solitude isn't falling behind, they're pulling ahead. Because the truth is, depth isn't found in the noise. Strategy doesn't arise in the group chat. Wisdom doesn't form when you're constantly plugged in. The clearest minds, the most intelligent thinkers, the most strategic leaders, they all have this in common. They disappear too. Think. They don't vanish out of fear. They vanish out of intention. Because silence isn't loneliness, it's clarity. It's where you stop echoing the world and begin hearing yourself. It's where decisions become clean. It's where vision becomes sharp. It's where inner power begins to speak. Solitude isn't about hiding. It's about building armor. It's about strengthening your mind while the world depletes theirs. And if you study your own life, every major breakthrough, every mental shift, every rise, you'll find it always began in silence. That silence isn't empty. It's building you. So, stop fearing the quiet. Start respecting it. Let it craft a version of you that doesn't need to be seen to feel worthy. That doesn't need applause to feel sure. That doesn't need the crowd to feel strong. Because once you can walk your path alone, you'll realize something profound. You're not behind. You're ahead. And by the time they notice, you'll already be somewhere they can't reach. The battlefield isn't just out in the world, it begins in your head. And the strongest minds don't wait for life to surprise them. They prepare. This is called mental rehearsal. Elite athletes do it. Master performers do it. Sharp thinkers do it. Before the event arrives, they've already faced it in their mind. They've stepped into the room. They've felt the pressure. They've overcome the challenge not once, but dozens of times. Internally, because the brain doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined. It wires the same, so when you rehearse clarity.com, precision and resilience, your body responds. Your nervous system locks it in. You create confidence on a cellular level. This isn't fantasy. This is training. The reactive mind waits to be overwhelmed. The trained mind walks into any situation and acts like it's been there before, because it has. This is how you build poise under pressure. This is how you stay calm when the room heats up. This is how you walk into conflict, already knowing who you are and what must be done. The world calls it charisma, presence, grace, under fire. But you know the truth, it's mental preparation. Long before the moment comes, you have two choices: live on reaction or live on readiness. One makes you fragile, the other makes you unstoppable. And all of this, the silence, the focus, the deep intention, the rewiring brings us to the real shift, the real return. The moment you flip the mental switch, this isn't a trick, it's a transformation. It's the moment you stop being a passive participant in life and become its commander. It's the moment you stop following the noise and begin crafting your own signal. You don't just become more efficient, you become a force, dangerous not in chaos, but in clarity, unshakable not in control, but in calm, powerful not because of dominance, but because of discipline. You move through life differently. People feel it. Rooms shift when you enter. You no longer chase validation. You create alignment. You no longer wait to be chosen. You lead with presence. You no longer fear the unknown. You welcome it. This isn't arrogance. It's ownership. This isn't ego. It's sovereignty. You finally see that you were never lacking. You were simply distracted. Your brilliance was never gone, it was buried. And once the fog lifts, you will never again settle for mediocrity, because you've seen what's possible. You've tasted your own potential, and you know now what others are still searching for. That the real threat is not the loudest person in the room, it's the most focused. You're no longer available for distraction, for delusion, for compromise. You become the storm, quiet, precise, relentless thought, and the world can feel it. This is your awakening. This is the rise of the intelligent warrior. And once you step into it, nothing and no one can bring you back.